Welcome to the Seattle Investors Club podcast with Julie Clark and Joe Bauer, where we share the nuts and bolts of real estate investing from our 20-plus years in the industry. Sit back, relax, listen, and immediately take action. Are you ready? Here we go.
Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing podcast. My name is Joe Bauer, and I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how you doing today?
I'm actually sore today, Joe, because us Clark girls hit Stevens Pass yesterday. Totally awesome. Crystal blue skies. But it was a little bit icy, just a little bit icy. So, you catch that edge, you go down hard. So my butt's sore today. And Addison took like a face plant forward fall. So she can barely move today. So that's always fun to have a 12-year-old that wants to complain all day long. But we did have a good time. What about you? Did you hit up some good spot this weekend?
Nope, we are on the road again. So we are down in Boise, Idaho, hanging out in the Starbucks parking lot this morning. And then we're kind of trying to figure out where to go. Nobody's getting a bunch of snow right now. So our destination for next Monday is Jackson Hole. But we were kind of going to veer off of that path to hit some powder if we could. It's looking like there's not a ton, but we'll see what we get.
I don't know. I thought I saw the news in Seattle. It says we might get some lowland snow here.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
Which would be kind of fun. So since we've switched to the video format, you guys, today, I can't spring on you the surprise of who our guests are like I normally do. Damion, where are you at? This is Damion Lupo, everybody. You're going to get to know him here in the next few minutes. Where are you at, Damion?
I'm in the more rainy part of northern Arizona today. We're finally getting some of your Seattle rain. And so I'm out here enjoying that against the Red Rocks, which is absolutely beautiful.
Jealous. And Aaron, where are you? Say you're chasing some chickens or something like that today.
Yep, had to feed the chickens this morning. I'm on Tiger Mountain on the south side, so I've actually out my office window got a partial view of Mount Rainier over here. I get to see that every day as I'm working, so really enjoy that. But when the weather's clear, of course. Otherwise, all I see is gray.
Awesome. Well, today, thanks for the transition, Aaron, because today we're going to bring some sunshine into everybody's life by we're going to teach them how to take control of their money a little bit more by introducing to our new friend Damion here that some of you may already know. But we're going to kick things off here. I'm going to look to the side at my cheater notes here so I can tell you more about Damion and Aaron here. So today on today's show is about informing you guys on how you can have more control over your own money, take control of your own money. And I know a lot of you are luxury car enthusiasts. I know one of my current clients is showed up in some souped up racing car. It's funny because actually some of my regular traditional buyer, seller, real estate agent clients listen to the podcast. So if you are, I appreciate you listening, even though most of our audience is an investor crowd here. But since I know a lot of you guys are luxury car enthusiasts, I'm going to put today's show into some relatable terms. And I'm going to say today, we're going to introduce you, this is Damion's words, to the Ferrari of retirement accounts. Or you can put those into your own terms with your own high performance vehicle. But basically what we're going to do is teach you how to take control of your money. Damion Lupo, sorry, I'm a little loopy this morning myself, is with Eqrp, and he wants to help you transform your financial future by providing you a way to take control of your retirement money that is stranded in your 401k or your IRA accounts. Super important. Damion, I'm just stealing stuff right off your website. So whether you guys want to invest in real estate or you're concerned about what's going on in our world and this crazy world that we're living in today, or perhaps you just want to roll over your money, tax and penalty free, Damion's going to talk to us about his solutions for that today. And so, that means tax-free rolling over your money, guys, tapping into your retirement money with some other strategies and some information that Damion will share with us today on how you can do that. And with that in mind, I want to say welcome, Damion.
Thanks for having me, you guys. It's good to be here.
Yeah. And then our other guest today, my co-host, my third co-host today, or my second co-host, I guess, is Aaron Royce. Many of you know Aaron, who joins us weekly at our meetup on the Seattle Investors Club. He's become a great friend of mine, and somebody that I can talk to and bounce ideas off as well over the years here with our local real estate investment club. Aaron, are you still going under Urban Views? Is that the name you're going by these days?
Correct.
Urban Views LLC. We've actually done a previous podcast with Aaron. I want to say it's number 86, Joe, if you can drop it down in the show notes, where we have a series on our podcast called My First Three Deals, where we meet just regular old investor peeps like Aaron, our friend Aaron, and they talk to us about their experience on like their first few deals, first handful of deals. It's such a good way to plug in and learn from everybody that is just trying to tackle how to become an investor and share their stories with us. So if that sounds like you, we want to hear from you, and we want to hear about your first three deals. Just hit me up at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com and let me know, raise your hand, let me know you'd be interested in being one of our guests on that. So let's see, what we're going to do here today is get to know Damion first. So Joe, kick us off.
Heck yeah, Damion. So the longest question ever. How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? And how did that get you to where you are today, including the beautiful Sedona, Arizona?
So I started in the opposite. So I'm in Arizona now, and I started off in Alaska, which it's interesting because the last job I had before I left there, I was in the Arctic Circle, and I was washing dishes and cutting up fruit and taking out the trash. That was my job, 14 hours a day for these oil camps. And what's crazy is that when people, I use this example because most people are so afraid of making a mistake. Their primal brain thinks that they're going to be eaten. And when I left Alaska, right before I left, I remember going out into 80 below zero in the Arctic in January, and polar bears are out there. And if I make a mistake and don't see the polar bear, it will eat me because I'm moving. And so my experience is one of those of actual primal instincts will save your life. Growing up in Alaska is a very unusual place because you truly can die just because you're not paying attention. And so I had that experience, and I had the experience of being told that we were broke. So economically, financially, I was told that we didn't have enough. It was this big time scarcity pounding my whole life. And it made me mad. So some people they get beaten into a box and they stay there. I burned the damn thing down and left. I think I got kicked out of college a few times. That didn't work out. Ran off when I had a Marxist professor tell me that the government should be in charge of producing and allocating resources. And it kind of it pushed me into a place where I said, what am I doing? I'm an entrepreneur. And so I went out into the entrepreneurial dark forest and had my hero's journey and watched one of those seminars in Florida back in 2000 after reading a Rich Dad Poor Dad book. And I said, this is for me. So I started doing some real estate, and that turned out really well because I was young enough and naive enough to think I could build the Great Wall of China in a week. And when I went through the process of doing what they told me to do, I ended up buying 150 houses, ended up building condos and apartments. And I mean, I was freaking awesome until 2008. And then I realized my ego had been driving that ship right off a cliff, and I lost $20 million and had to reinvent myself. So of course, when you do something that traumatic, part of the process, the catharsis, is to write about it. And so I spent about a year and a half writing a book called Reinvented Life, which really was before and after. Like it was an amazing experience to lose $20 million and be $5 million in the hole and have to start over. But it really, it taught me that if it's about the money, if we're going for the money and that's our purpose, then we've got a reckoning coming. The money has got to be a side effect at some point. And so that's what led me to what I'm doing today and where we're at here in Arizona. The opposite in a lot of ways. Arizona and Alaska, my life before and after, are very much opposites.
That is, I'm fascinated by the book. Maybe you can find it, Joe, and drop it in the chat there. You got us. We like to go down rabbit holes here. So now I'm absolutely fascinated. When you had to reinvent like that, which is a great story. Can't wait to check out your book. What was the hardest part? Was it of getting comfortable, where you were like, not living in fear every day, or, or did you just put that out of your mind because you got control of your mind as well as your checkbook? But what was the hardest part to start over? Because now you've been poisoned by all these thoughts of when you did it the first time, right? And you're not as naive anymore.
Well, I think it's a great question, because a lot of times when the fear of making a mistake, we end up making mistakes. We end up having the pain. I had the pain, and I also had the Ferrari. You mentioned that. So it's the Eqrp that we do now is the Ferrari or 401ks. And I had a Ferrari. So it's kind of a funny thing. And I had that experience. So I had all the money and the cars and all that stuff. And then losing it all and starting over. And I was literally living out of my vehicle, not really on purpose, but because I was starting over. And doing that in Northern Arizona in January is not fun when it's cold. So the worst part wasn't even the cold. The worst part was the process of acknowledging the truth, which is I was a total douchebag and my belief systems were all jacked up, and I needed help. And it took me about 2 years to acknowledge that. And then I spent 2 years in a process with a therapist coach in Texas. And we asked one question for 2 years, which is what is true, which is what Reinvented Life was based on. And the point of that is that we can't really change anything. We can't change a lie. So if we're out there and we're saying, oh, it is this way and it's not true, then we're going to be on a merry-go-round. Our life is going to look like Groundhog Day. And that's what I had to push through by reinventing and exchanging my mind instead of just changing my mind. There's a total difference. I get into that in the book about changing your mind versus exchanging it.
God, it's interesting because everybody should pick up that book. I don't know Damion very well at all. This is our first meeting, so I'm not trying to push his book, but it feels like that's something that could resonate with the freaking world we live in. Today is January 19th. Tomorrow's inauguration day. I don't care what side of the fence you lie on, but there's probably some reality, non-reality people living in the world right now. And maybe your book's good to read just from that standpoint as a perspective on how to check your reality, right? Or things like that. So
that, and if you enjoyed Breaking Bad, I've been told my book is like reading an episode of Breaking Bad. So it's when you go through the process of total ego and you get to watch that journey and then the blow up and the meltdown and the reinvention, it's literally the process of doing it. So you don't have to blow up your life, but there's typically a piece of most people's lives that they want to shift or change or reinvent. And this was the process. It's internal and external, and really what my co-author and I did in different parts of our lives to reinvent. So regardless of where you're at, where physically or mentally, it's useful to have a construct so you can actually do that. And so you're not just shooting in the dark.
And here you go, guys, from somebody that's relatable. So I'm going to do this. Joe, you didn't know I'm going to say this because I didn't know I'm going to say this, but first 3 people. Why 3? Because 3 is my favorite number. Okay. That's why. First 3 people that drop us a review on our podcast here, or whatever Joe tells you to do, are going to get a free copy of Damien's book sent to you by Seattle Investors Club and the nuts and bolts of real estate investing. You got that, Joe? Okay. Okay. So I'm shifting that responsibility onto you to figure out, Joe, passing that nut to you. So good stuff, Damion. Now we're even more excited to talk to you today. How did you end up, you reinvented yourself. We got that. And then we got down our rabbit hole, but how did you end up, being the type of consultant for, retirement planning and checkbook control and self-directed IRAs basically that you are today? How'd you go there? Because you were an investor, right?
No, this is a perfectly executed plan based on strategy and thinking, and that's totally a lie. The reality is I had a random conversation, which is a lot of what life is. Joe being out in the van and exploring the world and being out there's a lot of random conversations. And sometimes those are the best ones that pivot your life if you're open and aware. And so I had a conversation in Alaska about 7 years ago when things really shifted, and I dug into this space, and it was with my dad right before he passed away. And when we were talking, he was stage 4 with cancer, and he looked at me, and I just found out. I flew up to Alaska the next day, and I sat there with him at a coffee shop, and he looked at me and he said, there were so many things that I wanted to do, and he knew he couldn't. He ran out of time. And I after I got done crying and it was a babbling mess, I started thinking about that. And what I realized was that there were 2 reasons that he had that comment, that's where he basically left this earth. Was one, he didn't go deep. He went wide. And right now it's really easy to go wide because you have all these shiny nuts on social media, and you're like we're all a bunch of drunk squirrels chasing shiny nuts. And so he was doing that like everybody else. He didn't go deep. There was no mastery into anything. And the other thing is he ran out of money. He played by the rules, and the conventional wisdom was give your money to somebody, abdicate responsibility because you're too stupid, because that's what Wall Street says. And then you wake up one day and you're like, I'm not too stupid, but I'm too late. And that's where he got. And so I said, there's got to be something different, better here. And I started digging in and realized that the system is corrupt. The Wall Street system is corrupt. Our money is in 401 and IRA jails, and there's got to be another option. And so I spent a couple of years writing a book about the research that I was doing. I think it's called the Eqrp book, and really helping me to understand so I could communicate the alternative. The alternative is the Eqrp that we created. And it gives people the ability to not have that conversation. How? Because you have your money in your hands. You get to invest it how you want. And it basically gives the middle finger, which is why my hat says F you, the Financial Underdogs podcast I have. It's saying, look, we're all financial underdogs, and F you to Wall Street. We're going to go take control of our life and our destiny.
Oh, God, I'm going to subscribe. Thank you. I'm loving it. I love your message and your energy. I am so myself freaked out about the surface level stuff. I'm aware of it. I am aware of it for myself. I'm following everything you said, but I'm more terrified about it for my kids. Okay. And I'm so worried about it for my kids. I want to talk to you about that today. I'm going to put that down. Let me just type that word into my thing here. So I don't forget here. I feel like they're getting, with all this YouTube crap and all the stuff they watch, that they're not getting anything, going deep on anything. They're 12 years old. They're old enough to, learn something good. So that's why we are getting a cat. I think I told you guys we might have to get a cat in July, a kitten, because I've required my children to just pick any subject matter they have interest in outside of school and do a deep dive until their birthday, which is in August. And give me a full PowerPoint presentation. And then I, of course, have to reward them because I have to bribe them, because I'm so freaked out that they are just surface level everything with TikTok and YouTube and all this crap, that it's time that they, don't just, when they learn something in school, they're like, oh, I have to do it. So I just have to do this project and get it off my desk. And then it's out of their mind, right? It's gone. So one of my daughters has done a deep dive. It's so fun, on blockchain and Bitcoin. And she is presenting to me her study, deep dive. For 30 minutes a day, she listens to something and learns something about it. And then my other daughter did one on the law of attraction, mindfulness, and meditation. And it's amazing. They actually get into it if you force them to go down a rabbit hole. And I'm totally cool with bribery to get a habit going. So you and I are of the same mindset, and it makes me even more excited to talk to you today. Well, good stuff. Well, let's meet Aaron, because Aaron, we have to thank for this awesome conversation that we're having today. So Aaron, tell us a little bit about your background. You guys can get to know Aaron better by listening to his podcast number 86 with us. Or also you get to follow up and meet Aaron more on Thursday, 11:30 to 12:30 Pacific time, where he joins our weekly roundtable discussion most weeks. But Aaron, tell us about you and what your business is, who you are, so everybody can get to know you better.
Yeah, fantastic. And I'll try to be brief because it's more about Damion today. But my journey is very different. I grew up basically thinking, corporate world is the only option there is. So I was never told there was anything, I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I figured people that kind of made money outside of corporate America, just had some magic going, and somehow that magic wasn't in me. So I spent most of my career just trying to get a good degree, became an engineer, had a fun job. I really did enjoy my early parts of my career. And so that was great. But, I was young and single growing up in Southern California, and I could have easily purchased my first property back then. But my mindset, as I shared kind of on my podcast, I saw my single mom who had bought her first, condo, was just constantly terrified of losing it. And so for me, I associated home ownership with fear. And so for a lot of my growing up, it was kind of like, that's just not for me. I'd rather rent a room with other, with roommates, and I'll just, spend money on toys, and got the motorcycles and different things, and I just was really enjoying being a young single guy in Southern California. And, it wasn't until, that I got married that I even thought, maybe having a home, would be a good idea. So, later in life, I found, met my wife and actually quit my career at that time. I actually ended up going overseas. I was doing some ministry work for about 5 years. And in that time period, I'd kind of left behind a little bit of savings. I really, wasn't very good at saving and different things, but, we started thinking about home ownership. And, at that time, a friend of mine introduced me to the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And of course, like most people, it was just a complete mind blown experience reading that, because it just seems so simple. And yet I just never heard this stuff. And again, I associated any kind of ownership with fear. And now I'm looking at, this path to wealth. And it's like, well, I don't feel entrepreneurial, but I think I can buy a property. So we ended up building a house in South Africa for pretty dirt cheap. Ended up selling it when we decided to come home. I made $100,000. And it was like, wow, I should try to do that on purpose again. And so kind of like Damion, this is back in 2005. We came back to the States and I was trying to figure out, what do I do? I guess, I'll go back and work again, because I was still in that mindset that, I really can't do anything but work in a cube. So I went to work for Boeing for a little bit. And then I got introduced to a company that was, selling real estate investing education, and, trying to help people become investors. And I was like, okay, I've read the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Let's get involved with this. And bought several houses very quickly, started thinking, hey, this is easy. I'm really smart. Gosh, look at this. And then 2008, 2009, just completely got wiped out. And unfortunately, in that time, took out a friend of mine's money who invested with me. My dad had invested money with me and lost a bunch of money. So, I not only lost a lot of my own stuff. In fact, we were losing our own home that we lived in. We had packed everything up and we were about to move in with my parents again, who had moved up to Washington at the time. And like the week that we were literally going to move over there, I got a call from a recruiter and, got a job at Boeing again, short-term job. And it just, it was just like kind of this crazy turn of events. But the point is that, I went through that same thing. We pretty much lost everything. I think we've lost like 6 houses between my dad and myself and our partnership and the stuff we owned by ourselves. We just lost all of it and had to start over again. And so unfortunately, I still didn't have the right mindset. And I think I was still just stuck in, the pain of the loss. And it took me like 9 years to get back to a place where we felt healthy again, felt like our finances were healthy, and started investing again. So, just back in 2017, we started buying our first flip. And at that point, we bought several, between 2017, 2018, and 2019, just started progressing our business of buying flips, and kept a couple of them as rentals, and have just kind of gotten into a lot of things. And I'll end my story there, because it's a little different. But that's one of the things that I really resonated when I met Damion, either 2 years ago, I think, at one of the Fixated on Real Estate events. He was had his booth there and was a speaker. And I'm listening to this guy who's super successful, but he had such a humility about him. And when I heard a little bit of his story, that's what I was like, okay, this is a person I can listen to, because he's not just selling something. He's actually has lived through something and can teach me something. And so then that's where I kind of started my, kind of getting to know Damion and kind of the different things he was able to show me. So that was cool.
So Aaron, you met Damion by chance at the Fixated on event, which is spectacular. And Grace Yarber, who now hosts the Pacific Northwest Big Badass Real Estate Expo every year. Can't wait to hear. Is there a word on that yet? Do you know, Aaron? Have you heard anything?
No word for this year yet. I think they're probably hoping that the vaccine will be distributed and we can get back in person again. So, exactly. But no word yet.
So, Aaron, so you decided, to engage with Damion and his company, right? You met him, but how have you used it? Like, why did you do that? Why did you decide that you needed to engage with Damion? I mean, he's obviously a great guy, humble guy, Yeah,
and that's the part of the story that it was a kind of an interesting timing too, because so it was 2019. I remember now, it was the 2019 Big Badass Real Estate event, because I was in the process of quitting my job that I've now had for 9.5 years. It had gotten to the point where I just couldn't even go into work. I couldn't eat breakfast in the morning. The stress had gotten so bad. The first few years I worked for this company, loved it. But then the last few years, things just started becoming so tumultuous. And so we had started, again, ramping our real estate flips and things like that. So I was at a point where work was kind of getting in the way of the projects that we had started. We had purchased 3 or 4 properties and we're really kind of trying to ramp this. So when I quit, it was basically like a couple weeks after the real estate, the big expo. So I knew, because I had heard about directed funds and things like that. And I knew that I had my retirement account, I had almost $250,000 in a retirement account that I had to do something with. And I wanted to kind of take control of that. And so for me, it was really this timing thing where I knew I was going to be rolling that money over to something. I didn't want to just leave it, in Fidelity. I wanted to use that to build my own future. And so, as I learned more about the Eqrp and how it was a little bit different from a standard self-directed fund, I was like, oh, I should do this. So that it was really a timing thing. And then hearing the differences, which I'll let Damion get into, but just for me, it was just very it was something I needed at the moment. And so when I met Damion at the expo, again, it was one of those things where I'm, this guy runs this company. He's very successful, obviously, but he took such time with me and he just, there was such a connection that it's like, I felt like, this is somebody I can trust. It's not just selling a product. I mean, he really is somebody that will listen and try to fit a solution to a problem that I have and a need I have. And so basically the short of it is, once I finally got it rolled over, I was able to buy a couple of notes in the Eqrp. I ended up buying some precious metals, so silver and gold, from one of Damion's other companies. A little plug for you there, Damion. And then so I did that. And then the latest thing is I invested in a fund that Damion also started. So that thing's fully loaded out now. So I've got that fully working and now building towards the future.
Hey guys, it's Julie here with a quick break from the show to discuss an opportunity some of you may have interest in, which is to work more closely with me. On almost a daily basis, I get calls from investors and brokers, both new and experienced, asking me for guidance or advice. I love helping you guys out and it keeps me on my toes too. So with that said, I wanted to let you know that I have a private broker coaching community called the VIP Education Community. And the best part is that it's 100% free. That's right, it's free to join. So whether you're a traditional broker or a broker investor, my VIP education community offers personalized one-on-one coaching from not just me, but also from my experienced broker friends with expertise in all disciplines of real estate and real estate investing. We'll teach and share our modern marketing strategies, our tech and lead generation resources, plus teach you how to identify or offer up opportunities for yourself or for your clients using techniques such as seller financing, lease options, land entitlement deals, BRRRR investing, flipping, multifamily or commercial coaching, whatever you like. We've got it all covered for you. The future of real estate is changing fast, and to stay in the game, it's time to learn about all the options you can offer your buyer and seller clients, as well as, if you want, learn how to use those skills to grow your own real estate portfolio. If you'd like more details about joining my VIP education community, reach out to me at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com or text me at 206-910-2985 or just send me a Facebook message. My new favorite phrase is community equals confidence. So let's navigate the future of real estate together. Now, back to the show. Awesome stuff. Well, Damion, that's a good transition. And tell us what makes, a lot of us have heard about self-directed IRAs before. We're aware of it. I don't know why I find it's either the first thing people go to because they are getting started and that's how the only money they have to tap into their investing or whatever, or it's the last thing they do for some reason. I don't know why I feel like there's not this middle ground. It's either like you run towards it as a resource that you're going to use, or you drag your feet on it for some reason. And so tell us what makes Eqrp different from other self-directed IRA type of consulting companies, for example.
Well, I mean, big picture, we can talk about the technical pieces, and then we talk about the culture. The With the technical pieces, IRAs are a $10 trillion industry run by custodians that make a lot of money off of fees, and they don't really give you any advice or direction, and they certainly don't give you total control. So it's a different thing. And Eqrp is built under the 401 section of the code, which means it's a different product. It's like I've had some people that have literally said, "Oh, that's this, your thing is that." And it's like, no, that's like saying a Ferrari is a Ford. I'm like, look, and a Ford Taurus, not a Ford GT. So if you've watched the movie, but it's the point is they're totally different. There's what's built under the hood is a different thing. And there are some pretty high profile people that are confusing the public, which is like a lot of fake news out there. And it makes me really frustrated because people are just marketing. And what I'm doing is educating. And
Let's
I think
back up for 1 second. And just some people might not even know what the definition of EQRP is. It's an acronym, essentially, kind of. I mean, it's the name of your company, but tell us, like nobody knows what's going on today.
Yeah, so an EQRP is an enhanced qualified retirement plan. It's a type of 401k. The way we build it, it's set up so that it's got some unique features that aren't available anywhere else, not with an IRA, not with solo 401k. There are some clowns out there with Juris Doctorate, meaning they're an attorney, that are out there confusing the public saying, "Oh, look, it's an EQRP. That's a marketing thing." They're lying to you. And I'm not going to name them. You can find them on the internet, but the reality is the EQRP allows you to take control of your old retirement money or contribute up to, say, 50, 100, 200,000 if you have a family with kids. And you can do this whether you have nothing but you and your venture or you've got 10 employees. And and then it protects you in case you get sued. There's like nothing else exists in the country like that, which is why it has its own name, an EQRP. It's a different thing. And you actually have control. Like you have a checkbook. You're in charge of it. You want to buy real estate or gold or hedge funds or crypto, you want to buy Bitcoin, whatever you want to do, pretty much you can do anything you want. We're totally misled by a system that says, "Oh, you need to invest in these things." That's because those things are being sold by that person telling you that. It's completely a conflict.
Let's qualify without naming any names, of course, or anything. Like, what is the misconception, do you think? Like, is there 1 or 2, 3 points of like, you're kind of told that you can do this, but no, the truth is you can do this? Or what is the misconception that's being peddled out there that we want to alert everybody on?
Well, there's two things. One, the misconception is Wall Street wants you to believe that you're supposed to, and you're only allowed to do mutual funds and stocks and bonds because that's where they make their money. And if that's what you love, great. Then none of this stuff applies to you. But the reality is the tax code that was set up in the early 70s says you can do all these things. Here's what's excluded. It really just excludes it. So in general, that's Wall Street versus the self-directed industry. And in terms of the EQRP, you can actually have an EQRP and have employees. You're going to be protected from lawsuits. And what happened is years ago, individuals started setting up 401ks and these companies never adapted. We talked about this earlier, that there's a pivot going on. And in society, you have to be able to pivot. Well, these companies said, we have a gravy train. And so they wanted to say, well, everything is the same. They wanted to say an EQRP was the same as their goofy little 401ks. The solo 401k got completely clobbered a year ago because the rules changed. Now, if you have a part-time employee, 10 hours a week, you have to include them in a 401k plan. Guess what a solo 401k can't have? Anybody, a part-time or full-time person. An EQRP is built for employees. And that's one of the things that they don't want to talk about because it forces a lot of people to be disqualified or broke because ultimately, eventually you're going to have people. Like it's very rare that you can grow a business by yourself. So that's a huge difference. And I want to make sure people have the truth. Get your facts. Don't just listen to these goofballs in a suit that have JD after their name.
Let me ask you, that's interesting that you all say that because I actually have one of those plans with, and I get the survey every year. In fact, how many employees do you have or, this big thing. And do those guys, why are they not, is this unique to a product that you have, or is it something, that why wouldn't they want the best for their client and to make their lives easier? Do they not have access to this? Is that it? And so they don't want to talk about it? Or how could they not know? Right. So if I'm having my own person, because I've had one of these, like I said, one of the plans where I can't have the employees, right? Used to be a big deal because Joe and I'd maximize all my stuff out. And Joe and I had to we had to have, I had to manage all that stuff. because of so nobody ever mentioned the ability to shift to like an EQRP type of thing ever. Even to this day, I don't even know that my financial advisor is aware of it. You know,
The reason that it's not talked about is because the EQRP company is the only one that builds EQRPs. What you typically have is you have big firms, whether it's Fidelity or Provident or somebody that does 401k plans that are mutual fund based where you can have employees. So either you have mutual funds with your employees or you never hire anybody and you can do self-directed stuff. There's not been a middle space that people had an option for. That's where the EQRP came into existence. So why does a mutual fund company not tell you that this is an option? Because they want your assets stuck in mutual funds. And why does a company that does self-directed solo 401ks or IRAs, why do they not tell you about this? Because it's a lot more complex and they don't want to do the complexity. And they're sure as hell not going to tell you to go over and talk to Damion because they don't want to lose your business. They want to keep your fees. They don't want to keep you. They just want to keep your fees. That's reality. And so what they do is they confuse people. And it's incredibly frustrating, but it's kind of a bit of a war where I can say, okay, let's talk about this. And I watch these YouTube videos with them spouting off their stuff and chuckling and making fun. And I go, make fun all you want, but your clients are coming over to us because we solved their problem and you're lying to them about it.
So let's just make it clear, everybody. We always talk about, every year, obviously, you're going to do your taxes and you're going to protect your borrowing position. You're become an expert at structured real estate, which allows you to understand seller financing. We talk about checking in with the doctor every depends on who you are, every year, every 3 to 6 months, every 12 months. And we're, we just did a recent podcast with our friend Albert Bowie at Avenue One Capital Inc., one of our favorite conventional lenders. And we have, Certain Lending, shout out to Certain Lending, who is the sponsor of today's podcast. And we love them so much. But the reality is that you need to check in with the doctor. So as we go through the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing podcast, one of the things we're doing is building your team for you, and you're keeping you safe, right? So you're going to check in with your conventional lenders, your hard money lenders, when you're going about your business, to make sure that you sit down right now and say, okay, this is what it looks like this year. I want to borrow. I want to do like 5 flips or 10 flips or whatever. Maybe you want to say 4. And this is how I'm going to plan to do it. I think I'm going to use the money this way. I'm going to use hard money this way. And then I'm going to try and do a buy and hold and a burr and get conventional. If you don't sit down with the doctor and tell them what your plan is for the year so they can help you navigate the roadmap so you don't waste all your time or find out you can't convert or qualify for that conventional loan, for example. I'm going on a tangent here, but I'm going to wrap it back to Damion. You will screw yourself. So we're going to give you the title of Dr. Damion. You're going to be one in our doctor box, in our health kit. We are intent here at the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing of, like I have an earthquake kit in my closet, right? We're trying to build for our friends a health kit. And I'm making light of the term doctor, but Damion is a doctor, a specialist that you need to check in with. How many of you out there have 401ks or solo 401ks? You have them, and you've never checked in beyond the person that you set it up with. You all need to check in with Damion. He's an honest guy. He's obviously probably not lacking any business. So I don't think he's, we like to surround ourselves with great people that, other people use and can speak for as well. You need to check in on what your situation is. Do you know, or do you feel like, has somebody told you you can't have the employees? Like, what kind of plan do you have? Do you even know? You need to check in with the retirement doctor here, as well as check in with your CPA and your private money lenders, your conventional lenders, your hard money lenders, and talk about what you plan for the next year to 3 years to 5 years, and make sure that your health kit, is you're pre-planning all this, guys. It's just a checkup, like you go to the doctor. Your financial health is as important as your real health, right? So let's do it, right? There you go. We can talk about that later. Okay. So basically, guys, you don't know what you don't know because nobody's telling you. So you can thank Aaron here today. You can thank him on Thursday when you see him again. for introducing us here to Damion. So,
Can I ask a question, Julie?
Yeah, go for it.
So Damion, I was just wondering can you just articulate, because I think this is where a lot of people get confused because we've heard about self-directed IRAs, right? And so people, at least any investor that's kind of been around, been to any expos or anything, they've heard that they have this opportunity, and the solo 401ks, right? Can you just maybe between those three products and the Eqrp being one of the three products, can you help articulate a little bit of the differences so people can understand a little bit of that nuance? Because I think people think, well, I have a self-directed,
Right.
I am in control of my money. What are some of the key differences in those three products? That might be helpful.
But there's a lot. I'm going to narrow it down to the things that are actually going to hurt you and help you. And with self-directed IRAs, the thing that's most likely to hurt you, there's two big things. One is control. It's a friction point in getting things done. Can you get it done fast? Sometimes, but usually not. And people go, well, I'm pretty good. I'm good there. I've got a checkbook. I've got an LLC in my IRA. That's very common. Here's the biggest problem. If you're doing real estate or you want to buy physical gold, especially real estate, you go about and you invest in somebody's project and there's debt, or you do a flip. You want to do a flip with your retirement account? Totally cool. If you do a flip and you use hard money, you're going to run into a thing called UBIT tax. UBIT is the unrelated business income tax. And basically what that means is that you're going to be paying about 37% until Joe Biden gets his hands on the tax code, probably going to increase. But right now you're talking 37% on your leveraged profit. Here's what that means. If you took 60% leverage on a deal, a flip or a syndication, if there's 60% debt in the deal, 60% of your profits are basically going to be paying 37% tax on an average deal where you might make, say, 100,000, and that was doubling of your capital. You're talking about $20,000 to $25,000 in taxes in an IRA. And people don't know that because custodians never tell you, because they're not supposed to talk to you about tax planning. So basically, people are getting blindsided. An Eqrp is exempt. A solo 401k is exempt. So that by itself, if you're using real estate as your tool and you're using an IRA, you're making a mistake that's probably going to blow up in most cases. Now, I mentioned the differences with the 401 stuff, with Eqrp and solo 401ks. Big picture is the rules changed a year ago to where if you even have part-time, it used to be if you didn't have full-time people. That's why if you look at everybody's site that does this, they all sell these solo 401k deals, and they'll say, qualifications are you have to have a business and you can't have any full-time employees. And people are like, oh, I've got part-time employees, I'm good. Not anymore. That rule changed. And yet if you look at a lot of these companies, and I mean, you just rattle them off, Entrust, Quest, you look at them, and a lot of them haven't even updated their sites. The law was a year ago that it was passed. So big picture right now, if you want to stay broke and that's your plan, then you're probably good with a self-directed IRA or a solo 401k. But anybody that's actually thinking that they want to be financially free, the Eqrp is the tool to get there. Otherwise, you're going to have restrictions and taxes that nobody even talks about because they have an interest in making sure that you're blind. But the reality is,
it's funny because people are going to these products to try and break free of and take control, but yet they're only going so far as to scratch the surface or open the door or step inside, and then they get handcuffed again, is what it sounds like, because they don't go deep with their knowledge, because their person they set that up with isn't sharing all the information with them. I can't tell you guys, just in general, in life, in general, whatever topic you're talking about, if you take the time to fully inform people about all their options, and you're only one of those options, or maybe you can do 2 or 3 of those options out of the 5, and you tell them all 5, you build such rapport and trust with people by giving them all the information. How many of you are now pissed, thinking, why didn't my freaking person tell me about this, right? It pisses you off. You now have a ding how you feel about the fact that it's the same with your CPA. We're gonna drop Natalie's podcast on accounting, how to double check if your CPA is doing the right thing with you by just looking on one line of your tax return. We'll drop that out because it's tax season. But once you get somebody who is being honest and giving you all the information so you can get fully informed, you will understand and get pissed that the person you've been working with did not actually provide that to you. That's why we want to work on building this health kit for you guys, right? And you can vet everybody. You can vet Damion further. I don't know Damion well enough to say sign up blindly. That's not what we're talking about today. Today, what we're doing is giving you the information so you are fully informed and aware that you need to check your shit. Okay? Check your shit. That's what I'm saying. Good stuff. Anything else we need to know on, sorry, we're dropping the S-bomb. He's got FU guys on his hat. So I feel like to be cool, I had to say shit or something like that. All right. So back off.
So, Julie, what people need to know is they need to know the truth, and they need to know the facts, not somebody's fiction facts that they made up on the fly or their twisted version of reality, because we can see that all over the place. What I recommend is people do get a copy of the QRP book that I wrote. It took 2 years with there's a lot of missing brain cells after that book, and a new edition, the 10th anniversary edition, just came out. And so if you want a copy of that, QRPbook.com, you can get a copy of it. I'll send it to you. I'll FedEx it to you for free. It's on me. It gives you the information, and then you'll get a summation of it. For those of you that want the Cliff Notes, you're also going to get that. The reason I suggest that is because then you can make a rational decision versus saying, well, yeah, you know what? I liked you. I mean, that's great, but you also want to do something that makes sense, not just because you like somebody. And so this will give you the facts, and then give that to your CPA or start challenging the narrative, the assumptions, the pitches, the marketing that's out there. I mean, most people are in the IRA space simply because IRAs have massive marketing budgets. It's kind of like companies you see on TV that are selling gold. What do you think they're going to do? You think that they're going to have the best prices? No, they have the fanciest marketing campaigns that are driven by huge margins. Same thing with IRA companies, big margins, lots of fees. That's how they show up most of the time. So just challenge what you're being fed and then ask yourself, is this the best thing for me?
You know what I do selfishly? This whole podcast and everything we do with the nuts and bolts of real estate investing is actually a selfish move on my part, right? Because I want to learn about topics that I'm interested, because I'm a big nerd. I love learning constantly. But all I do is I take these podcasts and I give them out. I send shit like this to my financial advisor. I send it to my attorney. I send it to people. I send it to my clients, right? You guys should look through. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to self-promote, but you're not going to articulate to your financial advisor, or your attorney what we're talking about. Literally take this or something off point them to Damien's website or something and say, check this out, listen to this, and then call me back, right? And let's start educating our circle of, our tribe and our village, right? Let's build our health kit and check up on that. The people within our health kit that are keeping our businesses and our lives running are, it's like I say, never get married to a painter, right? Then one day they're not the best painter, right? We need to be checking up and on these things within our own personal circle for our, financial health as well as our medical health. All right, good. So can anyone and everyone set up one of these QRP plans or EQRP plans? Like, is there any, like you have to qualify, you have to make a certain amount, any limitations?
There are rules around having them, and the rules dictate how we set it up. So when you have a lot of the information out there says it has to be this or this, that's because people are selling one thing. We're building something. It's specific. So whether you're a W-2 employee and you work somewhere and you also want to have this, or you have your own business, you're a consultant, or you have 50 employees, it doesn't make any difference. Anybody can. Most people probably shouldn't. And so that's an interesting thing for me to say, because if I'm saying you shouldn't, then I'm saying I don't want the business. What I'm saying is that when you have control of all your money, you can go be reckless and buy a Ferrari like Dumb Damion in the 2000s. You can go do that. And so should somebody give me the keys? Maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't have given myself the keys. And that's what you're getting. You're getting the keys to your own Ferrari. You can take the thing ask Aaron, you can take it wherever you want. Nobody's going to stop you. So there's more people that shouldn't. It's not about whether you can't. It's about whether you should or shouldn't. This is the other thing that you had asked. You said, well, what are the differences? Well, our culture is based on self-responsibility and transparency. Good luck in finding another financial institution that's focused on self-responsibility and transparency. I've not found another one out there in the country. And so that's what you're going to find. If you're super self-responsible, this is an obvious answer. If you're a victim, this is a terrible idea.
Yeah. If you don't have any self-control and you have immediate gratification issues and all that stuff, maybe a bad idea. I'll tell you another thing that can be intimidating for people is, oh man, I think I'm going to screw it up. what's like the management? Oh, I gotta like make sure I do this, and I gotta have these documents, and I gotta annually. I mean, is there anything like that? I think there could be a lot of people, like the super responsible people can also be people that have anxiety and are worried, like too much. They want to, they're worried, like I can't do it because I know I'm going to screw it up if I do it.
Yeah.
Respond to that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're super nervous, this is probably not the right thing. I mean, the truth is you've got to take steps. You've got to build up muscle. I mean, wealth is not about a pile of money. It's about experiences that you get that hardens scar tissue, that you go through things. That I was working and teaching with Robert Kiyosaki, and he basically beat that into us one day. And he said, wealth is about the experiences, you guys. And I was like, well, I must be a trillionaire because I'm balder than bald and I've got scar tissue all from my nose to my toes. And it was like, wow, that's cool. Most people are afraid of the scars because they don't want to be pained because we're a nation of snowflakes. I mean, people are so afraid of making mistakes because they're trained to. Don't make a mistake. It's bad. No, it isn't. It's the right thing to do. And so, I mean, you have to really ask yourself, am I willing to go out there and be a little bit cold, stub my toes and move through this? Or do I want to be in prison? Because this is modern day slavery. Like these movements that are going on, I don't think that they're talking about the real thing. The real thing is financial illiteracy and financial slavery. That's the problem in America right now.
Well, I mean, it seems like, there is everybody's moving towards less control and taking back control, like blockchain, for example, right? That kind of, it sort of feels like it's in that whole new way of being aware that you can do this. But let's talk about this for a minute. When you say, stubbing your toes or, break, how do people, if they F it up, how does that happen? Like, what are the things that like, oh, well, what, it's not like you're going to get thrown in jail, I guess, or maybe you can if you do something terrible, but what are the kind of toe stubs or pain, like fuck ups will happen?
I think people are generally afraid that they're going to lose money. And that's the biggest thing. You make a mistake. I mean, I remember my first book, which if you want to see the worst looking book, the worst cover design in history, I think I won that award, or I should win the award. Like it's like the Razzies for book design. It's terrible. It's called Maverick Mistakes in Real Estate Investing. And it's about the first $1 million that I lost. And so people are like, oh my gosh, well, I've lost $1 million. I've lost all my money 3 different times. And you start realizing, okay, well, I can lose it. I can also create it. And there's an attachment people have. They have $1 and they go, oh, it's $1 and I can't lose it, because they listen to Warren Buffett. And one of the things he said was, my first rule is never lose money. And my second rule, see rule number 1. I think that's one of the dumbest things that people have twisted, because they go, I can't make a mistake. He's not saying that. He's saying, don't squander, don't bet on black or red and then hope it all works out. Like smoking hopium, not a good strategy. And that's what most people do. They're afraid of mistakes and then they end up smoking the hopium. So the greatest thing you can do is go find little tidbits where you can make mistakes and it doesn't kill you. Now, you're not going to get eaten. So what's really going to kill you? You might lose some money. Oh, goody. It's going to happen.
How do you, aside from losing money through your bad investment decisions, how are you going to lose money? You don't understand the UBIT stuff and you stub your toe there and get a spanking, or what? Tell me what exactly is don't do this or you're going to lose some money. Like, is there certain things like these 3 things you need to know you shouldn't do? You know what I mean? Like layman's stupid, basic question here.
Well, look, the reality is you're going to do something, and it's not necessarily going to be what I think you're going to do. You're just going to do something and you're going to learn. And that's where you're going to get stronger and wealthier. And then you're going to shift. Eventually, you're going to shift to a place where you realize it's not about how much money you have to make money. It's about how much you can think about creating money. And so it's a mental mind shift, but you're not going to get there until you do something. There's a million things that
that's a good response right there.
Well,
it's a mental mind shift, and you're not going to do any, exactly right there.
We have to be willing to shift, and we shift by physiologically moving through something. We're not going to just one day think it and go, great. It's like The Secret. People think if I think about money, it'll come from the sky and bang me in the head. I'm like, you're literally the dumbest person ever, because you believe that The Secret was it's meant for you to take action. You think it, you act it. And that's the thing here. Like, are you going to lose money? Yeah, that's part of the process. And if you think you can't lose money, you should go running and screaming to somebody that will babysit your money and keep you trapped. I'm telling you, there's a
lot of people probably that are there though, right? In that mindset, right? They know they're watching this and they're saying, I know I'm doing that. I know that is me. So the mindset answer was gold. The answer is that you can't grow until you take action, right? Push yourself outside your comfort zone. It's actually safe environment to do so, right? But you can't even move forward without your mind allowing you to move forward and taking that risk, right?
And Julie, I'll tell you one thing that people ask me all the time: what should I invest in? What should I do first? And I go, look, you're trying to figure out how to not make a mistake. Here's the best way to do that. Go find somebody that's successful and ask them. Don't ask them, just start working for them. Start doing things for them. When you ask a successful, busy, wealthy person, how can I help you? They're going to say, I'm too busy to spend time thinking about what you can do for me to help you. What you can do instead, and I've had people do this and I've done this, just show up and start working. You'll become invaluable and you have no risk of losing money. You get to leverage off of somebody else, and then you can start mimicking and absorbing them through osmosis. It's the best way to do it. And yet, guess what? Everybody's like, well, how much are they going to pay me? And I'm like, you're an idiot. You're always going to be broke. Stop being addicted to dollars. Go out there and learn, and you'll find that it's a totally different path that makes sense, and you're not going to die in the process.
Right. Very good. Love it. Good stuff. Well, let's talk about the fact of our economic conditions that we have today in the country a little bit, and how a lot of people are hurting. And, we talked about what happened in 2008. I actually have I'd love to, Joe, make a side note. I'd love to do like a podcast or a show or just some recorded fireside chat with a group of people. Let's pick 3 people. If you're listening and it sounds like you, and you had to start over, you lost your shirt back in, the last financial crisis, we'll say the 2008 time. I want to get a group of people together and just like talk about what happened, why they think that happened, how it happened to them, how they've recovered. So maybe Aaron, you can help us seek those people out. We want to record that and share it with people. Not necessarily a podcast, just like a fireside chat recorded thing. So we do these administrative things in the middle of our shows all the time. That's what we do here. But so Damion, tell us, how we can tap in, like talk about the CARES Act. And is that something we can tap into right now? Is that a relevant discussion, that information about how you can tap into it without a penalty if you're hurting or whatever today?
So the CARES Act that you're referring to happened in 2020, and it was basically a way to pull money out of a retirement account without penalty. Anybody that has a retirement account that ends up becoming an Eqrp can pull money out without penalty. That's part of the Eqrp. It's a process that we have.
That has nothing to do with the CARES Act, just the fact that you have an Eqrp, you can do it. Yeah,
with the Eqrp, the internal mechanism inside of it, we can do some conversions and things and allow you to get access to your money without that 10% penalty. So CARES Act isn't as relevant as it was if you have better information, if you have better advisors. We did have a major change that's effective January 2021, and that is that you can now set up an Eqrp for the previous year and contribute to it. So like if in 2020 you just realized I made too much money, I need to shelter some of this, and dang it, I'm too much to where I don't qualify for the QBI, the qualified business income. We can set up an Eqrp for you now to where you can contribute for last year. It's called tax planning retroactively. This just happened, like literally just started a couple of weeks ago. So it's something for you to look into if you made too much money or you wanting a deduction. This is about the only thing you can do retroactively, like completely from scratch. I don't know of anything else that you can start in 2021 or 2020. Maybe it's there. I'm not, I don't know the whole tax code. It's only about 10 billion pages. But this is one of the greatest ones that is available for people.
Damion, if you already have an Eqrp, can you retroactively invest for 2020?
Yeah.
Is that part of the rule?
Yeah. Part of the rule for just about any retirement account, you can put money into it up to the time you file your taxes. So if you have an IRA or you have a SEP or you have like a lot of things, there are chunks of the contributions you can actually still put in for 2020. Depending on the way you pay yourself, depending on whether it's profit sharing, there's a little nuance. And this is why it's really important to have an expert in the subject matter and not just a generic CPA. There's a lot of great CPAs, but there's very few expert CPAs. And so you really want to bring your team together. We work with a lot of CPAs and firms and educate them and make sure that they understand the nuance so they can do a good job for their clients, because most of them don't spend years going into this one area because quite frankly, it'd be a waste of the years because they're not going to make any money doing it.
What if somebody does a tax return amendment for the previous year? right? Because they had a bad CPA or something, or they, whatever. Is that, and that allows them a greater possibility to put more aside into these retirement accounts. Do you think that's any, I think there's a lot of people that have bad tax returns done, right?
That's a fact. Yeah, because most people are. Let's be honest. Most people are cheap, and so they go and they look for the cheapest person. And one of the things about the Eqrp is there's a lot of cheap retirement accounts. You can get free IRAs, free solo 401ks. We are not free. We are a boutique, and we're the best in class. And so same thing with accounting firms. You can get great accountants that are actually going to teach you, or you can get ones that are a relic from the 60s, and you're going to be dragging them through the dust. And that's just painful for everybody. So you have to decide, are you going to invest in your team? Because your team will make you money if you have the right team. It's kind of like employees. People go, oh, my employees are expensive. They're not. Not if they're great employees. They're actually going to make you money, but it's you are the problem.
Exactly. Good stuff. Well, it is January. I don't know if this is probably dropping in February, but still early in the year, you guys, when you're listening to this. And if there's anything you do, take me seriously. Like I said, go to the doctor. We're going to drop some of our previous podcasts that'll help you identify some of these, I call them doctors, right? That'll go do your checkup with your CPA, with your attorney, and with your financial advisor, your new friend Damion here, right? Check in and have him look over your stuff to tell you, if you're missing the boat here, right? Set yourself up correctly and check in with your financial health kit here, guys. You will, it'll make you sleep better at night, right? You got to just surround yourself with the right situation. Because right now, I think you don't know what you don't know. Right? You just don't even know that you don't have, it seems like you got things right because you got your CPA, you got your attorney, you got your solo 401k or whatever. You've got those pieces in place. It's just that there is versions or, better, we'll say, vehicles, like we said, that are more like Ferraris, like Damion is saying, that'll get you there faster and give you more control of your car, so to speak. So, all right. So, what else can we say here? I want to ask you about, kids, right? So I have 12-year-olds that twin girls, and I'm like, boy, I should set them up with retirement. We want to start buying crypto. Well, that's probably something to hold so long game there that why wouldn't I put that in their accounts, right? Instead of my own. How can I use my kids that actually legitimately, I don't know what the age stuff is, are helping me in my business? Like I film a lot of videos for being a traditional real estate broker as an investor and all my businesses with Seattle Investors Club and Nuts and Bolts in my VIP education community. They assist me. How can I leverage my kids so they get long-term benefits out of, your world, Damion? Or what do you think? Give me some kid talk.
So here's one of the things. If you have kids right now, this is going to be something you're going to want to pay attention to. If you've got kids, you can pay your kids right now up to $12,200 and take that. If you're paying them for anything legitimate, and you can have a 4-year-old that you're paying for modeling. I mean, go talk to your accountant and say, how do we do this? And typically what they're going to say is go to a modeling agency in your area, ask what it costs for a 4-year-old for a model, and then pay your kid and have them do modeling and use it for marketing. That's one way to do it. 12-year-olds, super easy. That first $12,200, here's what happens. You have a deduction. You pay them, you have a deduction off of your highest income tax money. So if you're in the highest tax bracket, you just saved $4,000 right there immediately. Then they have income. They pay no taxes on it. It's earned income, 0%. What are their options? They could put that into a Roth Eqrp, an after-tax account. Well, what does that mean? It means that money and that growth on that money is never going to be taxed. It also means that $12,200 contribution, because it's Roth, is basis. It could be pulled out at any point for any reason, no tax, no penalty. So just do this over the next 5, 6, 7 years. Have $100,000 in there, and then if you wanted to use it as their college fund, if they're going to college. The point is, you've got the ability to start shifting income around if you start thinking with the right team members. So it's a great question. If you've got kids and you're not paying them, look, kids cost money. They cost more than $12,000 a year. So if you're not actually paying them and getting a tax deduction for it, you're missing the boat, because that's what rich people are doing.
How do you have to document that though? Like, let's say let's legit. Like, I take my kids they help me with dumping out houses. They help me with filming videos that are legit that I need for my business. They help me with how do um, I guess I just pay them on payroll or what?
Yeah, I mean, so whenever anybody tries to figure out how to do this special thing, I say do it the way everybody else does it. If you have payroll for kids, make it payroll like anybody else. Just get Gusto or Intuit or whatever, and payroll them.
But you have to
And
document it somehow. How do you
yeah,
document?
so like if you were going to hire somebody, ask yourself what would you do? You'd say, well, what's the job? And then you'd hire them, and they have qualifications, and you hire them, and then you pay them through payroll. Whatever the normal thing is, you want to make sure that it just makes sense. And so ultimately, when you talk to your accountant's going to say, yeah, this makes sense. If your accountant goes, there's no way that'll survive an audit because that's goofy, then probably don't do that. But I mean, payroll is not complicated. You just do payroll.
Do it and know that you're going to stub your toe there and you might write a check later, right? I mean, or something like that, right?
There's a big stubbing that happens every year. It's called paying too much taxes because you're scared because people have convinced you that you're going to have an audit. Who cares? If you have an audit, make sure that you have an accountant that goes, yeah, no problem. I'm an EA, I'm an enrolled agent or whatever. And they can go and they can take care of it. But being afraid of the IRS is dumb. Right. The tax code is set up as an incentive system so that you go out and do certain things like hire people, like they want you to hire your kids. Like, give me a break. It's in the tax code. Yeah. Why? Because they want you to do it.
What about grandparents? How can grandparents, start putting money, transferring wealth, into the grandkids? I know they can give X amount a year. Any tips on that?
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of, there's charity. I mean, people can always give money, but what I like even better is setting up an account, hiring grandparents because they tend to be wise and hire them to be part of your business, hire them to be a chairperson, a chairman, a chairwoman of the company, and then pay them and then ask them to put that into an Eqrp, in a Roth Eqrp that their kids or grandkids are going to inherit. Because at that point, it's going to be tax-free money that the kids, grandkids can spend and grow for a decade. So that's how I would get them involved. Find a way for them to get. I mean, grandparents want to do something anyway. They want to be a part of their, they want to share their wisdom. I did this with my dad, and it made a huge difference in his life before he passed away. So why not give that gift to your parents and grandparents?
Good stuff. Good stuff, guys. Oh man, I could talk to you forever. Okay. So how does anybody get started? Let's keep it super simple here. People are going, damn it. This is exactly sounds like me. I was going to say while you were doing that when we were talking about hiring the kids, I go, well, before you hire your kids, you better check in that your plan allows you to have employees right there. That forces you. You think that's a good idea? Well, great. Now you have to go check and see what plan you're on to see that you can even have employees, and you're probably on the wrong one.
Your solo plan does not allow you to do these things. So right. So you do have to get informed. I mean, if you want to learn how to do this, the next step is to learn. Go to eqrpbook.com, get a copy of the book, and then do your research and see if it's a good fit. You can go out there and read the tax code if you're literally crazy, or you can just go and get the actual information and get the narrow focus on what you want to learn about. And eqrpbook.com will get you there.
Okay, guys, tell us again the name of your other book where you rose from the ashes, because we're going to...
The Phoenix.
Yeah, we're going to give the first 3 people that, give us a review on our podcast here. Joe's going to send them a copy of your book.
Yep, Reinvented Life. It's available on Amazon, Audible, all those different places.
By Damion Lupo, guys, right here. There you go. Good stuff. Joe, will you send me one too, by the way? Thanks.
Sure.
Hey, let's send Aaron one too. We're going to send Aaron one too, Joe, just because he played with us today.
Sure.
So good stuff, Damion. Is there anybody want to add anything else? Aaron, you want to add anything?
Like Damion said, just get informed. I mean, there are certain things that cannot be converted. Like I did inherit an IRA, and that can't be converted to an Eqrp, unfortunately. Correct me if I'm wrong, Damion, but I think we had that conversation before. But most everything else, right? I mean, rollovers, things like that. But yeah, there's just a lot going on out there right now in the financial world. So, I've been going through major shifts, learning about metals, learning about, different things. It's not all about just houses and that sort of thing. There's a lot of stuff going on out there right now. And I just encourage people to get around people that are more in the know about it, because just broadening that perspective is very helpful.
And Damion, because we are a real estate investing podcast, I just want to take one more second here. And we touched upon that there's some risks with people using it. Maybe, I don't know, Aaron, if you're buying and selling real estate, or you're just doing the notes and stuff like that inside your, and the real players in real estate, guys, I wouldn't say are the flippers and stuff. It's the private money lenders. To me, the private money lenders that have already made their money and now they're sitting back and using their money to lend very smartly that's like baller status right there, I think. So, Aaron, have you ever attempted, or people might be thinking, oh, I'm going to do this and then use my money to go invest in real estate, but you touched upon a little bit of risks there. Can we do like a 2 minutes on that for a second, Damion, on using your Eqrp account to invest in real estate and little pros, cons?
Well, I mean, here's the biggest thing that people trip up on that we've seen. There's certainly other ways to screw up, but people say, okay, I'm going to use my real estate money, my Eqrp money, or retirement money in general, and they'll go try to put it into a deal that they're actively engaging in as either a general partner, or they're going to go flip a house and they're going to do the rehab themselves. Totally disqualified. Can't do that. But people do it, and they're probably getting away with it, and so they figure they can do it. But you're violating the code, so it's disqualified transaction, which means
they're active in the transaction.
Yeah, and it's meant to be. All retirement accounts are meant to be passive. It doesn't mean you can't choose as an asset manager what you're going to invest in, but it does mean that you can't go out there and actively engage in it directly.
Awesome stuff. Well, I have my VIP education community, which is a private broker coaching community. And one of the things that I do, tell me what your opinion is of this. I kind of thought of it on my own, because there's so many we'll call them concierge companies out there that all the brokerage firms use, or even some investors do this sort of thing where, you have a buyer or a seller that needs to do some work on their house before they sell it, but they're equity rich and cash poor. So you can actually engage either through your brokerage firm if it has it, or there are third-party companies that do this to a pay-at-close model where you use somebody else's money, basically get the work done, and you can pay it back at closing. Now, there's a premium on top that you're paying back extra, but the idea is it raises the value of your home, and your net in that situation is higher, right? So it might cost you $5,000 extra to use their money to put the new roof on and build the deck that was unsafe, but that's increased the value of your home, and your net proceeds, even after paying that money back and paying their fee, you net more money in your pocket, right? Everybody knows concierge, it's a buzzword, concierge program these days. But a lot of those companies want to, they want a minimum spend of, let's say, $15,000 or even $10,000, right? Before they want to engage with that homeowner on the pay at close model. So what I've done with my attorney, and I've drafted my own kind of Washington State investor concierge agreement. And it's not a loan, it's like a profit sharing concierge agreement. Okay. And so I have a community of brokers that are in my VIP education company, and I have this agreement. And so what I'll do, let's say Aaron's a real estate agent. If Aaron had a client that needed to have $5,000 worth of refresh work done to his, to a home that he is representing as a broker, and that person doesn't have $5,000, but it would really put them into a better position. It's easy. It's an easy home to sell. There's a lot of equity. I can take my concierge agreement, okay, and I can use my retirement account money, and I can lend it. I'm not going to use the word lend. I can engage with Aaron's client, a seller, right? And I can provide that $5,000 they need. Aaron gets the listing, and I get paid back at closing, right? So I'm kind of filling this little niche, and I'm using my brokerage community to generate the leads for these types of, I'll almost call it like a profit sharing concierge type agreement, right? So all the brokers, I'm not going to do that on my own listing, but I can engage my concierge service with Aaron's listing. And when he can be the investor, I guess I'll say, on mine. So I never do it on my own with my own clients, but I can, if you guys were all real estate agents, I can engage with Joe's clients. I can engage with Aaron's clients. I can engage with your clients. and use my retirement account. And, for example, somebody needs $5,000 worth of paint, carpet, landscaping, dump runs, and all that. And I'll get paid $6,500 back at closing, right? Could take 60 days. There's a little bite-sized and you can do that with your retirement account. Does that make sense? Damion, what I'm talking about? It's like micro, it's not a loan. It's more set up as a profit sharing concierge agreement with Aaron's client, who's the seller that has no funds, but has a lot of equity in their house. And Aaron's getting the listing. And to give that boost, what do you think about that?
I think any type of creative money shuffling that's out there, you want to make sure that you have a conversation with people that are expert in that space that won't say, well, I don't really know, talk to somebody else. You want to get somebody to give you direction. And if they say, look, this is a black and white thing, don't do it, then don't do it. Because if you do it, you're asking for trouble. There are a lot of ways to do it. So
I mean, I didn't make this up, right?
No, totally. So what I'm suggesting, the point of this is that make sure you talk to people and have your team a part of your ideas, because there are a lot of ideas, and your idea right there, that's a great idea, so long as people are thinking through it that need to think through it. And if they have, great. I think it's dangerous to say, I have an idea and I'm going to do it because it sounds good.
Right.
There are 3-letter agencies in the federal government that have other opinions about that strategy.
And maybe again, I'm saying maybe it's not, then maybe you're not using your retirement account, right? So good point. I'm making myself double check with my attorney on the retirement account. I'll double check with you, have a side conversation on it. But it's just, a lot of people want to get started in these types of things, and they're doing little bite-size, not everybody has, you don't need to have a ton of money is what I'm saying. Right. So, maybe I'll show you this thing or Damion, and maybe I'll get your opinion on it too, but
yeah, send it my way.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. All right, guys. So we know how to hire our kids, and we know to go to Dr. Damion. We've given him a new title today. He's going to be one of the doctors in our health kit. And Damion, what I'll try to do is get Aaron to twist your arm. Maybe that you might join us sometime on a Thursday from 11:30 to 12:30. Even pop in for a little bit. And this is our weekly roundtable discussion. It's a great place to continue this conversation. Where people can ask you maybe some direct questions, right? If I see you show up, if Aaron tells you how to do that, then I'll put the spotlight on you for a minute and then let you bag out early. Just kind of pop in. It'd be really cool and awesome. I'd appreciate it if you were interested. But
love to. Just let me know when. I'd be happy to join you guys.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us from all our different locations here during this crazy time that we're living in, and stay safe, stay healthy, keep your money. And so, Joe, where can everybody find the details of today's podcast?
Yeah, you can get all the show notes for today at seattleinvestorsclub.com/138. That's seattleinvestorsclub.com/138. And if you guys do want that free book and you're going to go leave the review and then send me an email, joe@seattleinvestorsclub.com, letting me know that you've done so, and we'll get that set up.
Awesome stuff. All right. Thanks, guys. Go have some fun, and we'll catch you later. Peace out.
Thanks, everybody.
Boom.
Thanks, guys.
Guys.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.